Good morning, excuse the shaky camera work. I'm just on my way to go and get my BMX tickets. It's Copacabana Beach and I have been for a run, hence the red face. Yeah. So Arthur's given me a bunch of questions that you guys have asked us. I don't quite understand this one. It's, now what was it? Property refurbishment, maximising your investment. So somebody's obviously asked us about that. So let me interpret that question. Maximising your investment meaning getting the biggest bang for your buck. Number one, don't spec too high. If you're doing a tenant refurb, expect that you're going to have to replace carpets every 5 years. You're going to have to replace curtains every 5 years. You're probably going to have to replace a kitchen between 5 and 10 years, depending. Well, certainly 7 years. You're going to have to repaint every kind of couple of years. So with that in mind, don't go too fancy. You don't need to. You really don't. So we actually use Howdens a lot. There's also the LMPG. They're a great group for things like boilers to reduce price. We like Howdens, and our builders like Howdens because the carcasses come ready built. So although you might pay slightly more, what's really great is they actually turn up and they're already built. So the builders you don't need to pay the builders so much time. And the other reason we like Howdens for kitchens is there's so many depots that if they're out of stock of something, they generally get it to you really good. Whereas I find B&Q really bad for delivery. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. So we do the bottom end kitchen, the absolute bottom end kitchen, because it's going to get wrecked. Like, it's nice, it's white, and I do wood effect, you know, the kind of, not plastic worktops, you know what I mean though. I do wood effect plastic worktops, and I do bottom end white kitchen. Job done. I put tiles, and I get my tiles from online. I think it's wallsandfloors.com or .co.uk, and we do the cheapest chips Metro tiles because they're quite trendy, but we do expect that we're going to have to regrout them every few years. In the bathrooms, I try and get bigger showers than the 80x80 because I think they're, oh sorry about the buses, it's the Olympic buses, because I think that's just mean, you know, a shower that's so little. But I still don't want anything fancy at all, because once again, when they come in from a night out, it's probably going to get a little bit wrecked. We often put in Metro tiles, but I also use a product called Plastivan, and that actually stops the grouting, because what's definitely guaranteed is you're going to have mold in your tile grout because they're not going to clean the tiles as well as you'd like them to. So I do kind of low-end products because I'm expecting, sadly, it to be not beautifully looked after. On carpets, I do 14-inch underlay, 14 mil, 14 inch should be like a trampoline, 14 mil underlay, thank you. And then I do cheapest chips plastic carpet, as I call it. You know, there ain't no wool in those babies, so like £5.95 a square metre. And my experience has been that I prefer to go to a local carpet shop rather than one of the big sheds. I mean, you guys might have a different experience, but for me that works best. So can you see, we don't go fancy, and if we can keep a sink, a toilet already, we do. What we don't do is put baths in, because that costs a lot of money for heating the water, so we like to have showers and everything, but use anything you have already. Personally, for rentals, I always put new boilers in, but you don't need to be honest. That's kind of a pride thing, and I don't need to do that, and maybe I'm spending a little bit too much money. So what you might want to do is just get the boiler serviced and say, well, I'm going to put 10% repairs aside every time, so when the new boiler needs to happen, you know, I'll spend the money then. So see what you can reuse, and reuse everything you possibly can, and then you don't need to go top end. Don't overspec this thing, because this is going to be a working house. It needs to be clean, tidy, but don't overspec. I hope that's what you're asking me for. Basically, don't spend too much money, and this is from a girl who loves making properties pretty, and I've learnt to my cost. I mean, my good friend Nigel, we went down to years ago, I was spending like 20 to 25 grand on every refurb, and he was spending 8. I mean, it's, you know, and I was doing 10 refurbs a year for my own portfolio at the time. I was kind of buying 10 houses a year for myself. So that's like, what, 120 plus 150 grand extra a year I was spending on refurbs compared to Nigel. So I went round his properties, and he just reused everything he possibly could and was meticulous about doing that. And I learned a huge lesson from him. So don't go over the board. See you soon. Bye.